Look at that. I'm learning. I am learning David Lee Scales, how to be a tech master in this, the 49th year of my life. Welcome to Noble Rot, episode number 78. How was your weekend?
Wonderful weekend. How was yours?
It's good. It was super gorgeously sunny down here in Cardiff by the Sea. So zero waves. Sometimes when those waves just entirely turn off, though, how great is it just to wander down in the heat, do a cold plunge? The mighty Pacific is still, it's not even that cold. I can even call it a cold plunge. It's like too cold to comfortably swim, but it feels just right to do the dunk and then hustle up to the sand. So that was nice.
Um, a lot of our surf listeners from around the world grimace anytime you complain or you say that you're grateful to have no waves.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's just like, it is such luxury. It is just living at a giant all-you-can-eat Chinese food buffet and then going to South Sudan and saying, man, you guys are lucky to have no food right now. This is great. I'm
You
so
never have
full.
to you never have to watch your weight. Not
No,
concerned about caloric intake or over intake. Um, but I
gluttony is
do
not
I
even on the cards for you guys.
but I do know what you're talking about. That constant pull towards the ocean of being like, I have to check it. You know what? I have a busy work day, but maybe I could squeeze something in. Or while you're squeezing it in, am I taking time away from family or whatever else? When there's no surf, you can just focus
On
enjoying the other
everything
things in
else.
life. Yeah.
Completely. Knowing also, again, this is not South Sudan in the Chinese buffet metaphor, knowing that there will be waves, maximum, there'll be surfable waves within some time within the next 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
And so then when it goes super flat, it also makes me happy for the 2 to 3, right? I see 2 to 3 pop up and I'm like, let's go get some knee-high drainers. Let's do this thing.
By the way, there could be nothing that would make a hungry South Sudanese person more sick than the Chinese buffet example that you selected. I mean,
Completely.
if they even if they ease their way into a Chinese food buffet, they're still going to get a stomach ache and potentially vomit.
Yes.
It's greasy, it's heavy, it's got a lot of sugar in the sauces. Like a lot of it's fried before it's put in the sugary sauce. So it is the worst example or the best example that you could have used.
Uh, it was the daughter's birthday a while back now in January. Uh, she loves Din Tai Fung. Have you been lashed with Din Tai Fung yet?
No, you introduced it to me about a year ago. You mentioned it, and so I've seen it ever since, but I've never been.
Again, just to rehash, it's one of those places that the first time you go, you're like, this is good. It's great. It's fine. It's fine. It's like Cheney, right? But it's like the kid's favorite thing ever. It's like the the 13-year-old girl idea of, I suppose, what Sizzler was to me at 13, where you cannot get finer than this. You cannot have a finer dining experience than this. In any case, it's impossible to get a reservation since every 13-year-old girl and every adult who has 13-year-old girl tastes feels the same way. So she really wanted to go there for her birthday, couldn't do it. So there was one ballet studio is Convoy Street in San Diego, which is the quote unquote Asian district. And there is a sign that says the Asian district when I get off the freeway. And I always wonder if that's racist. It's like the official sign that says the Asian district, where I think if I was driving in Beijing, say, and it said Occidental district and they had, McDonald's and stuff like that, would I think, well, I'm being a little pigeonholed here, my friends. In any case,
I
Asian
would
district.
argue I would argue it's not pigeonholed enough because it's just a district for all Asians.
Yeah,
They're not
that's
being
the thing.
specific about which type.
No, LA has Koreatown,
Right.
LA has obviously Chinatown, Japantown, Little Tokyo, I should say, all of that stuff, right? No, Convoy is just Asian district. In any case, so there was one of these dim sum, Din Tai Fung is dim sum essentially, or yeah, dim sum. a dim sum spot, had crazy line out the door, crazy line out the door the other day. And I said, okay, we can't get in there, but let's try here. We got in, made a resi, had to wait for 30 minutes, but got in, her and her buddies. It was great. But I asked the dude, hey, why is there such a banging line out the door? And I guess they did some all you can eat deal that turned into an Instagram influencer thing, which led to all of that. And so it wasn't necessarily about the quality of the food. It was about an all you can eat deal that led to Instagram influencer thing and da 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 da. In any case, we paid more money to not do all you can eat, to go a la carte. And I felt really good about that because once you open the door to all you can eat, it's only going one way, and that is bad.
Totally agree. And the all you can eat buffet items are prepared differently, obviously, than the a la carte items. They're prepared and then they sit there in the warming dish forever. So I don't really want to eat that anyways.
This wasn't even that. I will say this wasn't a buffet. This is where they have the dim sum carts, right? So they're coming
Oh,
around
okay.
cart,
Right, right.
but so we were ordering a la carte off the cart, literally a la
And
carte
spent more.
instead of full price, instead of all you can eat, and spent more, which I would do again, just because once you're on the all you can eat, that weird little crab thing, bring that thing on over, right? You're eating stuff
Yeah.
that you would not even look at otherwise, and you are guaranteeing massive stomach disease for the next week.
You know, I have gotten the older I've gotten, the less volume of food I need. Like
Yeah.
I eat pretty light. I can't even remember going out to a restaurant and finishing a meal in the last 5 years probably.
No. I mean,
And
crazy.
when I eat at home, it's like I'll make a big thing for about for 4 people, even though there's only 2 and a half of us, and I will eat the smallest little portion of it. I'm used to cooking in large volume, but my intake has gone down 50%, I'd say, the last 10 years.
There is 10 years ago. So, for example, for those watching on the YouTube, usually I'm at a park on our Noble Rot Monday because the kid does a nature school thing. Uh, 10 years ago, I would have, and it's in North Park, San Diego. So there's good restaurants around, good lunch spots, good sandwich spots. 10 years ago, I would have been dying for an excuse, right? There's all, once you're out of the house, you have an excuse to eat whatever you want, right? I would have been dying for the excuse to find that, Nashville hot fried chicken sandwich style thing, or the whatever, or the whatever. There's one of those places here. I have not been, because I just don't have I think mentally I really want it. I know I
Yeah.
can't eat it. And so even mentally I don't want it now. I'll just go get one small carne asada taco and be
Yep.
completely satisfied for my lunch.
It's funny. I did the same thing where there was probably 3 or 4 years where I mentally wanted it, even though my body didn't want it, and so I would just put it in my
Yeah.
body because mentally I was thinking that I wanted it. So it was like, "Okay, green light, you can have it." My body's telling me no. And
Yeah.
so I've pushed past that to where I'm where you're at too, where I don't even crave it anymore. Or even if I have the Nashville hot chicken sandwich, which I do love, I'll eat half of it and I'm
Yeah.
like, my body's full and I have 0 overriding impulse to
To
finish it like
finish.
I used
Yeah.
to. I'm just like,
I'm
"Nope, throw it away."
Yep. I'm or my, at least, World War II, Great Depression era grandparents just rolling over in the grave.
Exactly.
Uh, well, David Lee, we don't even have time for headlines. Today's show is so hot. Today's show is so essential and necessary for the time. We're just going to jump straight in. Our uh, theme, or it's not a theme, what is it? Our
Title.
title is A Conspiracy for You and Me, kind of along the lines of Festivus for the Rest of Us. So this is a conspiracy for you and me. And of course, I'm sure everyone is aware. And if you're not aware, it means you were somewhere without access to any kind of communication that over the weekend, the United States went and bombed Iran. Uh, Things are spinning quickly out of control. Rest of the Gulf getting hit, Dubai getting hit, all flights grounded. I think they started resuming some flights today out of Dubai. I was going to have a show today on what to do in the airport when you're stranded, which we can save for later. I feel this is going to be an ongoing issue, so we'll pocket that one. But the conspiracy for you and me is too intense right now because 4 years, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even I would have thought, oh man, this is bombing Iran, this sucks. This is stupid. It's, what, war, forever war, industrial military complex. Da, 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 da. Now I think conspiratorial, right? Getting off the Epstein files, doing this to distract. And they're going to do Cuba next once this is done to distract further. Zorro Ranch, blah, blah, blah. All of this, thousands of millions of pages of documents. Only 2 people have been tried in this, this vast conspiracy, this vast cabal of powerful men and women eating, gorging off the souls of the less fortunate was all true, right? You and I used to make fun of the tinfoil hats. I used to laugh at the chemtrailers. I used to mock internally and externally. Anyone who had like a conspiratorial bent, I'm like, yeah, okay, sheep. Okay, you foolish man who reads foolish news and is easily swayed. Now, holy cow, who knew? It's all one giant conspiracy. Uh, Thoughts real quick before we get into the conspiracy for you and me on conspiracy writ large. So we have to go conspiracy for you and me this show, just to let you know, because all of this is too much for my brain to process. I don't have access to the players, right? It's not like I can DM Pete Hegseth and say, hey, bro, what's going on here? It's not like, I don't have any more knowledge than
Yeah.
you or the next guy. And so just to spin wheels on what I think it means is pointless. But before we get into the conspiracy for you and me, uh, what are your grand thoughts on conspiracy writ large right now from the state of the world?
I too was very skeptical about any of the conspiracy theories up until more recently. I think there's 2 main points I'd like to answer your question with. Number 1 is we actually do have information now for some of this stuff that we didn't have before. So enough time has passed, let's say, with the moon landing, which was a conspiracy theory, JFK's assassination, 9/11, where there were people with privileged information in the intelligence community, CIA officials, all that, who are now retired, or some of that information has been declassified now to where you're actually seeing the documents and people are speaking on it. And so I think that with some of the older stuff, there is now information. It seemed like a conspiracy theory before, but now we have the information. What you're talking about is kind of what's happening currently. You're right. We don't have any privileged information for this stuff, so it's harder for us. But because we know the past stuff that looked
Because
like conspiracy,
we knew that the CIA made crack and poisoned Black communities, inner city. We know that
we
for a
learned
fact.
that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we know that for a fact now. We didn't know it at the time.
But now we've been trained, so we're aware that, hey, the government does lie to us, and some of this stuff that that was conspiracy theory at one time, we now know is true. So now they're presenting something to us where it looks very suspicious and there is conflicting information out there. We're more liable to believe the conspiracy theory, or we're more liable to actually leave ourselves open to the possibility that they're lying to us. But my third thought is it makes us more susceptible to believe the bull crap too. So this may be in your notes, but Jim Carrey going to France and receiving his award this past weekend, and he looks different. And so he either has had such bad plastic surgery that people are like, you look like a different human being, which is the ultimate indictment for your plastic surgeon, by the way.
Yep.
Or the internet rumors are it's a clone. Jim Carrey's been speaking out a bit about the Illuminati now for years, and they offed him, and there's a clone operating as Jim Carrey now. And it's like, that seems so insane. But because we've already opened the idea that we're allowed to believe insane things, all of a sudden, otherwise reasonable people are believing that Jim Carrey's a clone.
Not only are we allowed to believe insane things are objectively now proven true. Once again, like CIA and crack, right? If somebody would have told me that, when somebody did tell me that 10 odd years ago, I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, right. Like all of the amount of wheels that would have to turn to make that true. But then lo and behold, Not only is it true, it is absolutely, like, fundamentally true.
And their MK Ultra program with,
Yes.
LSD as well.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
so, like, insane things are true, and then so where's our filter on the insane, right? Is we're supposed to be filtering this in real time. So, again, all of this Epstein stuff, right? And then you have Trump on the record talking about what Obama's gonna do, this is whatever, 15 years ago. What Obama's gonna do, he's gonna distract by bombing Iran and da 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 da. And what does Trump go and do? Willy-nilly, and let's just be quite frank and honest, we're not gonna deal with Iran and what's happening there on this show. But there was no imminent threat. Netanyahu has been claiming that the Iranians are 2 weeks away from getting a nuke for 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years he's
I've
been
s
claiming.
I've seen the footage that goes back every 5 years, him giving the exact same speech
And
for
so
since
all of this,
1995.
so there was, let's just be on the record, whether you are, happy that the Ayatollah fell or are pro, hey, let's just mix it up in the Middle East and see what happens or whatever there was zero reason, at least that I know, or that or zero reason has been presented why there was any imminent threat and why an attack needed to happen now, right?
Yes, but maybe not imminent threat, but the reason that the Trump administration gave was that they were a nuclear threat. But that, of course, is in complete contrast to what they've been saying every
Last
2
June.
weeks,
Yeah.
for the last since, he's been in office, which is that they have eliminated their nuclear bomb building capacity. They've said that over and over and over and over. So to then pin the reason on the attack as being a nuclear threat is obviously up for question. That's where we then put the conspiracy hat on, or at least want to call them to account. Unfortunately, you can't ask the administration any reasonable questions because they shout you down and call you fake news or an idiot. But to answer your question, even if there was the threat of building the bomb, no, there was no imminent threat that they have even presented.
And once again, all of this well outside our pay grade. I know nothing more than that, readily accessible. I have no secret line into the Pentagon to get any kind of. I have no whistleblower. I've got no nothing. But the conspiracy for you and me, David Lee Scales. You know what we do have?
Tell me.
This is not a surf show, but we have Kelly Slater and Dan Mann winning Stab in the Dark. This is a conspiracy you and I can unpack here and now. The conspiracy aspect. Again, this is not a show about surfing, but a conspiracy played out in real time. You and I both know the players. We know the room. We have access to other people. We know who produced this. We know enough to unpack a conspiracy in real time and either stamp it conspiratorial or dismiss it as, hey, this is all just conjecture. Are you ready?
I am ready. Yes.
Okay, so for those who don't know, again, this is not a surf show. This is No Barat. We rarely, if ever, discuss surf. We're not going to be looking at the surf angle on this thing. We're going to be looking at the conspiracy angle. So for those who
Okay.
don't know, those here who are not surfers, which we're just going to assume everyone's a surfer. But in case you're not, Stab Magazine does Stab in the Dark, which they blind test surfboards with a professional who picks his favorite at the end, and that is the winner. This is the 10th iteration. Kelly Slater, the white whale, the one they wanted to get for a while, was the test pilot for Stab in the Dark 10. Stab in the Dark featured past winners. So Matt Biolas, Sharp Eye, Brett Merrick, DHD, Darren Hanley, and Paizel, right?
Correct.
Biolas. I get them all?
Yep.
Okay. Kelly, since he rides for none of those, demanded that his personal shaper, Dan Mann, be included, who shapes for Kelly Slater Designs. So they go through, they cut it down to 4 episodes at the end. Last episode, I think, premiered last night. And Dan Mann, Kelly's personal shaper, won. Message boards lit up. The fix was in. This was a conspiracy from the start. Kelly did this. Kelly basically bent Stab into a marketing vehicle for himself and for Firewire. He took a beloved video property that people adored, and he wrecked it just by making it a promotional vehicle for Slater Designs. Do you have anything to add before we get into it?
Just a slight correction. Um, during did you watch the episode?
I did.
Okay. So during the episode, there's an interview behind Kelly's car where Sam is asking Kelly a question. He said, um, do we want to eliminate the Dan man from the competition so it doesn't look like the fix is in? And Kelly thought about it for a second and he goes, why did you guys include it in the first place? Like, if you're going to potentially eliminate it, why would you even include it? So the correction is you just stated that Kelly Slater forced the Dan Man inclusion in the project. Sam says that it was actually a deal that he did with Terry Hardy, which is Kelly's manager, and Dylan Slater, which is the Firewire CEO. So on the face, based on what they said, it indicates that the deal was done with Kelly's people and that Kelly was unaware that the board was included in the competition until the competition started. He was made aware, obviously, at that point, but that would be something that would be up for discussion.
I mean, I think let's put that straight into the conspiracy stack, right? We
Okay.
can lay that on top of the conspiracies we are going to discuss with this and either prove or dismiss.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Sure. And I'm fine. I'm also fine, by the way, not making the distinction between Kelly's people making this mandate or Kelly making the mandate because um they're operating in his best interest and he would have, like they're one and the same.
okay, so out of the gate, I mean, I'll say that from the get. Both Dylan Slater and Terry Hardy, great dudes, right? Stand up dudes. I'm not thinking they're being snaky. Kelly's being snaky by saying he didn't know. I is 1,000% sure that this information was passed to Kelly, that Kelly was very aware of this, and I will argue that Kelly even pushed for it, right? I don't think that either Terry Hardy or Dylan Slater would have thought this was a good look, good idea, or had a good possible outcome.
Okay. Um so the first statement, did you say so you're making the argument Kelly Slater did know the board was going to be included? Were you also implying right now that Kelly knew which board was his, or have you
Oh,
gotten there yet?
absolutely. We can get
Okay.
into that also as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so before we get into those specific details, I will say congratulations to Stab. I thought I get the whole, like, this thing was kind of a dumpster fire. I read the comments. A lot of people were mad about it, feel they got duped, that, Firewire or Stab in the Dark is all about putting a great surfer on great boards in great waves. And this was missing the great waves. It was unfair. It wasn't a Stab in the Dark. It was rigged. It was, the fix was in all of it. I will say, I didn't watch all the episodes. I watched 2 episodes. Thoroughly entertaining. So Stab, whatever material they had to work from, I thought made a masterfully entertaining show.
I don't fully agree. I didn't think this one was very entertaining at all. I thought it was a 48-minute episode that could have been 15 minutes.
That's
And
fair. Okay.
they were really stretching. I mean, I've liked all of them before. I've liked Stab in the Dark as a whole and the Electric Acid Surfboard Test. I thought compared to those, this was the least entertaining one and certainly had the worst surfing that we've seen in
Yeah.
any of them.
Surfing was terrible. I mean, and
Yeah.
to be quite frank, Kelly surfed. I'm no expert, but I'm kind of an expert at looking at surfing. For once, I can say I am an expert. Kelly did not look good on the Dan Man board. Full stop.
Well, okay, so that'll feed into the conspiracy theory as well, and we'll get to
Yeah.
it. But I will say just as about the piece itself, we learned also that this was filmed over a year ago, and I think now we know why. It's because he picked the Firewire, and that looks like a problem for Stab, and it definitely undermines the legitimacy of the competition. And so I think Stab was probably apprehensive for how they were going to package this. And
So
thankfully, they figured out the solution by making the Shapers the stars and kind of focusing it on them more than Kelly. But even still, it it um it doesn't deserve to be titled Stab in the Dark. It should have been branded as something separate.
okay. So back to though Terry Hardy and Dylan Slater. Now, do you believe that they're making unilateral decisions without Kelly's knowledge on anything?
Yes.
On what?
Uh, I'm sure there's tons of decisions that need to be made regularly that Kelly can't be bothered by. I also think that he has a tight enough relationship with both of them to give them, you know, full reign to, or not full reign, but 80% reign to do things important. And I think that including a Firewire surfboard in the mix, they wouldn't have seen as something that he would disagree with at all. Like I could see them making that decision, knowing Kelly would approve it and just pushing it forward.
How do you think? Now, these are highly intelligent. Both of them are real smart dudes, right? Both Terry and Dylan. Real smart dudes, been around for a long time, been in the industry forever. How in the world do you think these smart dudes thought it was going to play to either have a Dan Man surfboard win or a Dan Man surfboard lose?
I think even smart people make mistakes. I think this was just a complete mistake and oversight. I think in those offices and in marketing meetings, any publicity is good publicity. They could not, they were just blinded and they didn't recognize what the obviousness that you and I figured out immediately, which is that.
Is before we get into further conspiracy, is this good publicity? Do you think now Dan Man, for sure, I will say, uh, he's like, it was amusing to me. I felt the stratification, right? You had all the winners, past winners in a room talking. Dan Man wasn't in the room. Dan Man didn't get invited into the room at the end. It's not like they reprised the room with Dan Man. Now that he's a Stab in the Dark winner, he gets to be there too, right? Dan Man was shot completely differently. All the other shapers were shot in black and white. Dan Man was shot in full color. Stab went out of its way to make a distinction. He's not the same as them, right? And they also make that distinction. I think Darren Handley said something like, "Oh, now I know who he is. I guess I don't have to wash my hand before I shake it, or wash my hand before I shake his," or something like that, right?
Yeah. And if you do go back and watch episode one, the shapers themselves say he doesn't deserve to be included in this. And
Yes, totally.
I think that Britt was the most vocal in saying it. He said outrightly, he goes, "We all earned our spot at this table. Dan Mann has not earned his spot at this table."
And I felt like watching that last episode too, it was a broader statement of the table being metaphorical, right? That Dan Mann has not shaped enough
Yeah.
yet to be included in the room, which I thought was interesting on a couple levels. I think nothing against Dan Mann, right? Like, and I'm don't have a horse in this race at all, because obviously Dan Mann won the shape off thing at the last boardroom show. Like, zero doubt that Dan Mann is talented, but it made me think, oh man, the way these guys look at other shapers is very interesting.
Well, to be clear, they didn't say he doesn't deserve a seat at this table because hasn't shaped enough surfboards. It was specifically he hasn't won Stab in the Dark previously.
But that was the specific stated in episode 2 or whatever. But I felt the vibe of that had shifted by the last one to the true vibe is Dan Mann hasn't proved himself yet, full stop, right? He has not been around the block enough. He hasn't had enough wins on the board to be in the same discussion as we have, right? That was never directly stated, but I felt all those shapers there look each other in the eye. None of them were looking Dan Mann in the eye.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's fair.
so
I agree.
so in any case, okay, so conspiracy one, I will say for sure Kelly knew that board was was pushing for a Firewire in there. For sure he was like, I'm busy, dude. Don't have a lot of time, bouncing here and there in the other place. Kid on the way, blah, 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 blah. I got a couple days for this, and there's no way I'm not doing this without promoting Slater Designs. And then that, and push it off to the Terry and to Dylan.
That's fine. I can kind of agree to that. The only thing that I will say in contrast or an argument against it is Kelly seems very sincere when he's on camera and realizing this information in real time. So it's hard for me to think that he's that good of an actor.
So here we go. And this is, I suppose, I'll lead with my tail right here, because this is what I came to believe at the end of it. And I feel this can be applied to all good conspiracists. Kelly
Okay.
believed his own lie. Kelly
Yeah.
convinced himself of his own lie. So he's not acting. He actually believes what he's saying. And that is the art. That is what Donald Trump can do. That is what Netanyahu can do. Netanyahu can go on camera and say Iraq is 2 weeks away from developing a nuclear bomb, straight-faced and believable for 30 years because he has convinced himself that that's true. Watching Kelly say he didn't know that was a Dan man with the shock on his face and the da 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 and it was, I 100% agree with you, was believable. There is absolutely zero way in the world that Kelly didn't know. Zero way. And I feel the
So
shapers were split on this, right? Like, I think DHD said there's no way that Kelly's going around. He's not like McFanny. He's not going around putting other people's boards under his arms. But all that was very hollow. Kelly knows what he's on. Kelly knew exactly. He might not have known the others. He knew exactly that was a Dan man.
So now we're switching from, did Kelly force the board into the competition? We already finished that. And now it is, did he know he was riding a Dan man?
Absolutely. So this is double conspiracy.
Among the five, right?
I'm saying both.
So yeah, we had this conversation a few weeks ago on the Grit, and my thought was that, like I said, he was sincere that he didn't know which of the boards was a Dan man. I've kind of changed my opinion over the course of the series, and it was shifting, but now I feel almost dead set after watching the finale that he also did know the entire time and that he was putting on a bit of a ruse. And it was Britt Merrick, I think, that convinced me, because Britt said, no, well, there was that too, but Britt said all of us shapers knew which one was the Firewire. He goes, when we were surveying the boards before they were surfed and the first studio shoot, episode 1, we identified which one was a Firewire. So it seems, suspect to me that Kelly wouldn't have been able to identify it. And Kelly has infinitely more experience with Firewires than those guys do. That's what Kelly has been writing for almost a decade now. So he's presumably written 1,000 Dan Mans at this point.
I mean, exactly. And so I think there's absolutely no way. I think Kelly's Trumpian, Netanyahuian job, and I'm not saying that in a political, I'm just saying his ability to look at the camera and lie convincingly made me think, oh, Kelly can't act that good. Kelly himself has convinced himself that he didn't know how. And I was thinking, how dangerous is that? How dangerous is it to have the skill where you believe your own lies? You're able to believe your own lies.
I think it is dangerous. Yeah, it's definitely dangerous for everybody around you, because realistically, let me go back to your previous thought about those guys. Dylan and Terry are smart. So, why would they have done this? The reality is maybe it actually does bode well for them, but it damages Stab. So I think Kelly can believe his own lies because it ultimately serves him well, but be damned anybody else who gets involved, and that's the narcissistic thing that is problematic. It's like this damages Stab's legacy of this Stab in the Dark series and the reputation of this whole thing that they've built. As long as Kelly gets his name said over and over again and Firewire gets more and more exposure, that's all that matters to them.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this. They were talking about, or in the comments, right? And now this is like the faithful. This is people who are living and dying, it seems, on the Stab in the Dark series, who really love it, are really invested. And amongst that crew, right, they're like, this damages, man in my eyes, and I'm not going to buy one of those boards, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, right. You might not. But how many people see this, or not even see it? Just the word trickles out, right? I feel this is a boon for Dan Mann. His name now is equal to, in many people's eyes who aren't going to be paying very serious attention, Dan Mann beat a who's who of shapers by the best competitive surfer to ever live, nominated or gave him the victory. Like, if you don't know the ins and outs, very, very few people do, right? Or very few people in a larger bucket know, well, okay, there was this and this and that and the other thing, right? So to average consumer, greatest shaper in the world or greatest surfer in the world just elevated Dan Mann to a greater plane, a higher throne then Britt Merrick, then Darren Hanley, then Matt Biolis, then John Pizell, then Suvia.
It is true. And I think the examples that you're pulling from kind of Trump's style of self-promotion or Netanyahu's style of just promoting his own, interests absolutely does apply, or there is something that you can glean from those examples to examine this scenario. And part of it is that you can't just they wouldn't be able to operate this way unless they had a system of information distribution already in place.
Sure.
So yes, the you say the lie, or what is the, your own personal truth. You get this media company basically to promote it for you, but you have your own PR machine that you are always in control of, that you're constantly pumping out information all the time. So for Kelly Slater's 1 point whatever, I think 3 million followers on Instagram at this point, he's already probably got posts ready to go that is promoting Dan Mann's win on this. So his acolytes and his followers who aren't going to go back and watch the episode and get buried in the minutia that you and I are talking about are just going to see exactly what you're talking about. And Outer Known's going to put out publicity about it, and obviously Firewire is going to put out publicity about it. So all of that over, shadows or just over everything's any of the conversation that's happening in the comment section on Stab.
I mean, absolutely. So, in a word, Kelly Slater has his own MAGA, right? He has his own superfan. He has his own acolyte. You said, yeah, and this works perfectly for them. But you mentioned at the expense of Stab. Do you think Stab sustained real damage on this one? Do you
It's
think people
hard
will
to
tune into Stab in the Dark 11 with the same kind of, I think somebody mentioned on Beach Grit, they remembered when they realized WWE was fake, and they can, it changed their life basically. Does this have that impact?
No, not that impact. And I don't know that I would say they sustained real quote unquote damage, but I think they were building a legacy with Stab in the Dark to where the winners of it can almost be it's somebody said a world title of shaping kind of a thing. And so there's an opportunity along the way to really make that claim. But they've proven themselves now that it's not about that. It's not about making it objective or really even trying to figure it out. This is just about entertainment. And you handed over the keys of the legitimacy. If you wanted it to be this best shaper in the world competition, you misread that and you misstepped. But I don't know that that was ever really their goal. I think their goal was only ever to create entertainment. So it doesn't really compromise the entertainment value. It only compromises the legitimacy of the competitive value.
The problem, though, is if people were tuning in to be entertained by legitimacy, and now they're tuning in and they know that, of course, you're going to have your WWE fan who likes it fake, right? Who they're there purely, or, to be quite honest, I suppose what Stab did is turn it into a reality show, right? The idea that maybe reality shows back in the day, right? When the Real World on MTV first aired in 92 or whenever that was, I'm sure they had some kind of overarching narratives they were hoping to hit, but probably a lot of it was sort of real and raw. At this point in the Kardashian universe we live in, we know none of it's real. Every bit of this is an angle to something to whatever, and again, lying to themselves. I'm sure the Kardashians are Slaterified in terms of them. They believe their own lies too. So it doesn't matter. But in that regard, I feel Stab in the Dark, and not that I held it on any kind of pedestal before, but I feel it lost. I don't know. It would have forever lost me after this. As much as I like this one, I do not care, because I know once the fix is in once, you can't get that fixed taste out of your mouth, or I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess now that I think about it, it did take a real a hit to for other reasons than what I already stated, because me as the viewer, I've learned that Stab is willing to compromise their own integrity for access. So
Yep.
we've seen this before with the WSL, where they're literally like basically WSL apologists you know? And with Jesse Miley, it was a Jesse Miley Dyer interview a couple of years ago that was just such a softball PR piece when they had clearly made missteps and the WSL had made missteps. And the interviewer, it might have been Sam actually doing the interview, that was just not doing the normal interview style that we have expected from him, just fully softballing it, letting it be a PR piece for the WSL. And he responded to that and even said, "Hey guys, we did that for a reason, is because we want access for the
Yeah.
future. They will cut off access." He admitted it. And so I feel that's the exact compromise that they made with Kelly Slater. What I think they're misreading is fewer people care about Kelly Slater than ever before. And the more that we get to know him, the less fans he, the fans that he kind of sheds. And so they don't need to work so hard for that. They'd be far better serving their own interests and doing what they do well than trying to accommodate this and letting it compromise the quality of their product.
And I suppose that's where we arrive at the end here. If Kelly Slater, and I'm not meaning this politically, do not take it wrong, dear listener, but if Kelly Slater is a Trump Netanyahu kind of self-promoter, self-lie believer, that makes Stab Fox News in this case, amplifying the uh, talking point of, whatever, of the Trump and Netanyahu in this point. And it's going to go straight through Fox's amplification out. At some point, do people just get sick of it, right? Do people say, I don't want the amplification of lies, or does it just bake in? Now, will there be whatever, I think you're exactly right. I think Kelly is shedding credibility and interest, at least to me, weekly, right? I mean, and not to be rude, but like when Dane mentioned in that another Stab interview, like talking about that you have 2 kids, and Kelly doesn't say I have 3. How utterly damaging is that to it's just, I can't even fathom the level of rudeness there.
Yeah. Um, when I say Kelly is shedding fans, I'm not speaking personally from my own leaving him as a fan. I'm saying because we communicate with listeners all the time. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of sharing information. I see it happening in real time, basically. I'm just reporting on that. What I will say is to answer kind of some of your other questions about Stab and their legitimacy or how this compromises them. I don't think Stab has fully made up their mind of who they want to be or what they want to be in this.
I mean, it's too
They're
late now,
willing.
though.
Well,
It's
no, but hear me out. Like, I felt like the last 10 minutes of this episode was an apology from Sam. It was Sam on camera explaining how they got themselves into this predicament. So you're right, where whether it's the Kardashians or maybe Bravo, Andy Cohen at Bravo, when they create the Real Housewives of Orange County back in the day, and it goes out there and there's public kickback, like, oh my God, this is offensive for these various reasons. They go into a meeting and they go, oh shoot, do we need to toe the line? And do we need to like listen to the criticism? Or, what might be interesting? Let's lean into the controversy. Let's feed these people even more alcohol, make them even richer, make them continue to make bad decisions. And so they've become exactly what they were criticized for originally. Now is their like poster, their
Yeah.
whole business model. So I think that Sam had an opportunity with this to either, uh, I don't know what, like he could have made a lampoon version, or maybe the next version will be a little bit more sensationalized and allowing it to be more of a marketing vehicle or something. And he'll probably get money involved in it actually and start selling space to people,
I think they
or
already do, basically, right? Essentially.
they have for certain pieces, but this one was not sponsored. Um, but, or he can go back to double blind competition. Let's foot the bill for all of this ourselves and really make it a legitimate competition. That's up to him to decide. But I feel like waffling kind of in between and realizing you got 6 months down the road and then waiting a year to put it out because you're not sure how to craft the narrative, and then crafting a narrative but apologizing to the viewers every step of the way is just it just shows a lack of, I don't know, decision making or direction.
Man, it's funny. I guess I let in with how much I enjoyed the 2 episodes I watched. Didn't watch them all. And again, I haven't watched another Stab in the Dark, so I have nothing to really measure it off of. But I suppose in this scenario, I am the super Bravo fan. I am like, yeah, Bravo, this is sweet. I'm tuning in for more, but I would never tune into anything like this again. It was just,
So,
I felt
well, I guess I'm thinking about the reasons why I liked the other ones and why you should have watched the other ones instead of this one is because those ones were just about the surfing. Dane, I mean, I'm picking Dane as an example because his name came up, but all of them, this probably applies to all of them, had no vested interest in not only the boards, but also in promoting their own wares. You know, other than the fact that maybe he was wearing former clothing in the interviews, he never mentioned former once. He didn't promote his own business or anything. So there was never any conversation happening other than just the surfing itself. This entire series or this entire version of Stab in the Dark has been almost 95% conversation about the gossip and the conspiracy theory aspect of it, and 5% of it has been about the surfing.
is there anything we can take from this conspiracy that we solved? That we solved, there was a conspiracy. Uh, Anything we can apply to the larger conspiracies?
I hate to say it, but be more cynical because I got duped for 3.5 episodes. And when I was midway through the fourth, I'm like, you know what? There's way too much circumstantial evidence here for me to ignore.
And you knew it at the out of the gate too, right? You knew it the second. Like I think I knew it the second. I don't watch the first episode, but I knew it the first I heard here. This is a giant scam, and there's only one way this goes, right? I knew it from the get. Uh, which just think how much time we would save in our lives if you just go on at this point. Your gut is probably right. Like with the bombing of Iran, with the everything that's happening, with the burying of the Epstein files. No, it's not. I read something about, oh, I think it was the New York Times about why, with this amount of material, with this amount of heat, with this amount of smoke, with this amount of fire, with this amount of witnesses, with this amount of victims, with this amount of time, with da, 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 da. And whoever was writing the New York Times was trying to make it sound, well, it's really complicated, right? This is a really complicated issue of it's everybody has to operate under these narrow kind of laws. So it's a combination of narrow laws. And they went, on a tortured explanation of why there's been 2 prosecutions in this massive crime. And I'm like, nope, don't even have to think about what you're saying. My gut is correct on this one. My gut is correct that it is a cabal of rich and powerful people covering up crimes and, acting in a, I guess a second level of conspiracy. Okay, was this Mossad or what, all of that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah.
which I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is this was a massive cover up by rich people.
Well, one thing that again, I don't think they're dumb. I don't think the people there is a bigger play always. And so I think that part of the bigger play is get you talking about this stuff that you just said, like, because yeah, if you're just confused and talking about all this stuff over here, there is these deeper, much more troubling things, but we've created just enough confusion and talking points and everything that you'll never even get down to what's really
Yeah.
going on over here because you're
Yeah.
just so
Too much time.
you're engaged in that conversation. That person going out there and saying it is complicated, it is. Now you're having a debate with them and you don't
Yeah.
have time to actually go down and actually figure out whether Epstein was an asset for,
Well,
Mossad.
great. I guess we really took something out of Stab in the Dark that we can apply, like, which is don't waste your time on the minutia. Don't even look at Kelly. When Kelly is bald-faced lying to you, even if he believes it, what does your gut say? You're right. Your gut is right.
I
And now let's get into if this is good or bad that he did that.
I like what you're saying about what's your gut saying. I would be wary about why is your gut saying what you're saying.
It's true. And
Is
you can't always go on gut. But for these bigger things, like
well, what
Kelly
I
Firewire and Epstein.
yes, and so what I'm saying is if your gut is saying something because you have a couple hundred data points of learning from your experience with this person, and this person constantly is trying to pull one over on you or constantly marketing their material or whatever it is, then of course your gut is actually making an analytical decision. It's not just making a biological reaction to information. Um, but and that's what like you started out by saying, look, I don't know anything more. I don't have secret intel with Pete Hedgeseth, and so I don't have any additional information than any of you guys do. I agree with you there. We don't have intel. However, I listen to what the administration tells me. And so when I hear them tell me something now, I'm running that calculus of everything they've told me for the past year. And I'm still waiting for my Doge refund check. You know what I mean? I'm still waiting for 10% APR on my credit cards. I'm still waiting for prescriptions to be 1,500% cheaper, which means they're paying me for the prescription. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of these things that you said every step of the way, gas should be under $2, like groceries should be cheaper. None of that has happened. And so, but again, we can't even mention that or bring that up again because you've put a bunch of other bull crap in our laps that we're discussing Epstein files or the bombings and all this other stuff. Like, but
And
again,
or
internally, what I'm saying is I am running a calculus. And so the response isn't based off emotional reaction. It's based on data.
great point. What if at the end you learned that this entire stab in the dark episode or season 10 with Kelly Slater, Dan Mann winning, all of it was just straight up more distraction from the Epstein files? Hey, surfers have been talking about Epstein a bit too much. We see it in the message boards. They have a bit too much free time. They're out there in the lineup. Time for distraction. Let's go.
Uh, I would be shocked, but that would imply that one of their names is in the Epstein files. Slater's name is in the Epstein files. So this is a distraction so that we don't look.
No problem there. Believable. Just kidding, Kelly Slater. Well, anything more to say on conspiracy and or Kelly Slater?
Not necessarily on Kelly Slater, but I could ask you a couple of questions about conspiracy if you have time.
Hit me.
The ones that I mentioned previously, do you believe that we landed on the moon or that it was faked?
I believe we landed on the moon.
Okay.
But
Uh,
but again, all of these new conspiracies that are true, like it's not like I can say I'm 100%. I used to have said 100% sure. Now I say I'm 92% sure.
so I would have said up until the last year, we absolutely landed on the moon. In the last year, I would now say I'm open to the idea that it was faked
Me too.
because number one, kind of again, circumstantial evidence here, but the number one suspect thing is that we've never been back.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is insanely bizarre. The other thing that kind of dovetails with that is at the moment in time that we did it, there was a real good reason to do it. There was motive to do it. You
Real
know,
good reason to at least claim it.
exactly. There was good
Yeah.
reason to claim it. So that's where you can point to motive.
Give
The
me
other
that.
thing though, the other thing that I've seen is this is one example that I'll give you, but I've heard it in a few different versions. One example was a guy um, doing a testimonial, basically a confessional. I think he was on a podcast actually. His dad worked for the CIA, and on his dad's deathbed, his dad admitted to him, his son, that he witnessed the film production of the moon landing. Like in a giant, studio space or whatever. They built it all out. He was like part of the process at some point, either ordering material or something. Didn't know what it was for. They never disclosed what it was for, but he witnessed it enough. And then whenever down the road, when they advertised the moon, they were streaming the moon landing on television. He was watching. He goes, "Holy cow! That's the thing. That's the project I was working on. They're selling it as the moon landing." So again, he told his son this on his deathbed, and I think he had documents, like he had kept receipts from the things that they had ordered. So like he had those and he shared them with his son. So it's like, there's circumstantial stuff like that. Obviously, that son could be making up the story entirely. The dad could have been making up the story entirely. The son could be doing it for profit. He's on a podcast, like tons of questionable things there. It's not whole truth. But again, I'm open to the idea now that the government is lying to you, especially when they have motive. in that case.
I 100% give you that, and I would not have been open at all, even I wouldn't have been open at all, yeah, even probably 5 years ago. Like, not
Yeah,
one crack.
me neither.
Yeah.
JFK assassination. Do you have
Yeah,
any?
JFK assassination, I've always left cracks open. I think I had the blessed Oliver Stone dripping sweet poisons in my ear for my whole formative life, and so I think uh, there was enough like, pieces of the puzzle that didn't fit even to my young self, where I thought, "Okay, yes, I believe that whatever the narrative is, the mainline government narrative is," but I was always open to question there.
Me too. Yeah. And more so now than ever. There's
Oh,
been a
yeah,
lot of
way
information
more
that
now
comes
than
out,
ever.
but I
Yes.
mean, the conspiracy theory here is that the CIA assassinated JFK.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you go as far as to believe that?
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the CIA acting in our best interests has been, especially now with DOJ and all of it getting very much weaponized. And I suppose that those on the right would say, yeah, it was weaponized under Biden too, right? They all came after us, blah, 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 blah. It's very clearly, and CIA right in there, right? Like, it's not like these are pristine, morally pristine people who aren't bent one way or the other,
Yeah.
which has been proven more and more.
Um, conspiracy theory number 3 was 9/11 an inside job?
I'm going to say no on that one. Uh, Yeah, I'm gonna say no on that one. I know of the, people who were told not to show up that day and the all of that kind of stuff. Um, yeah. I mean, everything's cracked open now, but yeah,
I
my instinct on that one is no.
I know. My instinct is no as well, but the more information that comes out about financial dealings and profits made off the buildings falling, the ownership changing a couple weeks before, Howard Lutnick running that hedge fund that was in the building, and like all of that stuff,
There's a lot there.
def- definitely points to suspicion. But the orchestration and the level of orchestration, and all of that stuff is very, very hard to wrap your head around. That somebody would be able to design all of that.
I mean,
Um,
that's why I've always been anti-conspiracy, is purely because the moving pieces, right? Where I think
yeah,
it's the Peter Bergen. He's a journalist. His quote: "Incompetence is a better explanation than conspiracy
yeah,
in most human activity," which, is, until now, stuff either is incompetent. I've been around the world enough and in hot places enough, right? I've been traveling in and out of, oh, I don't know, nasty places, and I just never got the sense that anything was that clean. Like in Yemen, right, running up to a roadblock right after the war on terror started. Or right after 9/11. Yeah, right after war on terror. It's 2002, right? Uh, Going up, surfing, having a CIA car rip up behind us. And we had seen these guys on an airplane earlier, and they were like, "What are you guys doing here?" So they ripped up on this roadblock. We're at this roadblock. We're all stuck there. Uh, we explained to the, checkpoint Yemeni bros who knows who they were, what we were doing, and they let us through. They're like, "You guys go surf, go for it." CIA got like totally just burning off and watching them stuck there. And I was like, "Huh," which made me think, you guys are incompetent, basically. Like, we can move around easier and quicker, and you guys have all your own special forces, or we've done all this training. Da, 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 da. You guys don't know shit, is how I felt at that time. I'm like, our ability as a group to navigate here with, having studied in Egypt or Buddy's Islamic studies and the kind of stuff we put together, we make a better team than your stupid CIA. So that's when I really, like, when conspiracy is tough broke down for me there, because I was like, you guys are literally incompetent. You're not, there's no way this is a well-oiled machine. You guys are dumb. That's
yeah.
stuck in my head until more recently.
I agree with that. The government is kind of the dumbest, to be
Yeah.
honest, or maybe the most incompetent. Like, go to the DMV and you'll
Yeah.
figure out real quickly the level of competency trying to get something done quickly or get your passport renewed quickly or any of that. But I guess the other thing is, like, specific to the 9/11 conspiracy is, you have to look at alternative explanations as well. So, yes, those people made a profit off the building or whatever, off the insurance payout, or important people didn't go to work that day through happenstance or whatever. An alternative explanation is they maybe had access to intelligence. And there was intelligence who was tracking some of this stuff, who wasn't sure that it was absolutely going to happen. But if you do have access to that intelligence, you might want to take the chance and not go to work that day. And that
Yeah.
would be a reasonable example to where it wasn't necessarily George Bush hiring hiring the hit,
Yeah.
but they had information, and those at a certain level of power
Had
had the
access.
information as well. And then,
Yeah.
yeah. So look for alternative explanations, basically.
Any other
Um,
any other conspiracies?
yeah. What
Aliens?
about, well, what about just the idea of people being replaced? I mean, the Jim Carrey one we already mentioned, but I think the other two, they're more kind of salient, are Jeffrey Epstein's body being a body double or somebody else, because obviously it didn't have the tattoo on his arm. Apparently, the body that was examined at the morgue had a prostate, which Jeffrey Epstein has paperwork in the Epstein files showing that his prostate was removed. And then also Ghislaine Maxwell potentially having a body double in jail is what people are saying.
I mean, shoot. Yeah. The door is cracked on that one too, right? Like that kind of stuff it's hard to argue away. It'd be hard to be obviously super definitive about, right? Like I would not go and say, "Yep, I'm staking wife's house on this one right here." Uh, but yeah, right? It's weird stuff. It is weird, and knowing the duplicity, I feel that's the veil that was lifted from my eyes in the last 5-10 years,
Y-
is the
Totally.
duplicity, the double
Yeah.
dealing, the downright terribleness of governing bodies, which I suppose, back to Stab in the Dark, uh not the Stab in the Dark Academy, but I could see how they got you, and then something they do erodes it. And once it's eroded, and I feel my faith in the goodness of the American government has been severely eroded.
That's absolutely 100% true. That is a takeaway.
Yeah.
So the Epstein issue that I have, or the reason I have a hard time knowing where to land on the conspiracy of it is, um there's DOJ documents that refer to him as being murdered. Okay. That exists. That's a
Yeah.
fact. DOJ's own internal communications, emails back and forth, referring to him as having been murdered, as opposed to suicide, which was stated. So I'm like, okay, that's a different conspiracy theory, whether it was murder or suicide, but they're acknowledging it. So if it is a body double, then why would he have been murdered? You know what I mean? They wouldn't be having a conversation about Epstein having been murdered if they knew that it was a body double.
Sure.
That would cease to be a conversation. So that's confusing. But then the second thing is, I stated that the body that was examined in the morgue didn't have the arm tribal tattoo that Epstein did have, and also didn't have the prostate, or did have a prostate, which Jeffrey Epstein did not have. I don't know that to be true. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't there in the morgue seeing the body that was there. I saw images of a body in the morgue that looked like him without a tattoo, and I saw the medical report that said that it had but it's all just coming from the internet. So it's like, how do I vet that as being truth versus not? I do know the government is duplicitous, and I do know the government has the capacity to do these things, but I
Did they
can't
do it?
wage my wife's house on it
Yeah.
because I don't know the information,
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what's true and what's not.
I suppose another takeaway, anybody who's so like cocksuredness at this point we should all try to eliminate. Those who are hard, there's an explanation for everything, there's no such thing as a conspiracy, should crack the seal. And those are all, everything's a conspiracy, the chemtrails and the should also
Yeah.
crack their seal of, oh, maybe it's not, right? Maybe things
Yeah.
just happen, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I've been fed a bill of goods just like Kelly Slater fed the world.
And the internet or the AI is getting so sophisticated
Yeah.
that I can't really trust my own self at this point. I can't trust my own
No.
eyes at this point. So the Ghislaine Maxwell one was, her doing the testifying a week or two ago with one stagnant camera angle from in the back of the room, and you can only get this pixelated version of her. But people zoomed in on it and they're like, oh my God, this woman in jail right now is not Ghislaine Maxwell. Like the face is different. They give all these assessments for what's different. And then happens to be that week, a woman is spotted on the street. I believe it was Toronto or maybe Quebec. It was somewhere in Canada, who was a doppelganger for Ghislaine Maxwell. Like somebody's videoing her. They walk up and they say, hey, Ghislaine. And she turns and looks. They go, aren't you Ghislaine? And she goes, oh, no, that's not me. But that clip went viral. And I'm looking at it going, this could be fake. How
Yeah.
do I know how do I know this video isn't just AI? Like none of us do.
It's really screwed us with AI. They really, really, at the end of the day, we've done our dystopian show, the one that young Austin's going to live in. But man, what a shit house AI is.
I know. And then you think if there were the I don't know, like whoever they are, let's say, whoever the puppeteers are, they would be wise to put that Ghislaine Maxwell random sighting on the streets in Toronto video out there, because then it gets us all talking and then it all becomes kind of conspiracy fodder. So whatever the truth is now buried between all these headlines of conspiracy fodder,
I mean, you'd think that if you are they, them, uh, in charge of this, if you are the global cabal, more conspiracy, the better, even if it's all true. Even
Exactly.
if like actual true information is out there, put it out there because it's right next to stuff that's not true and it's all taking each other down.
Well, my thought as just kind of a naive person who doesn't have a PR machine, I'm like, um, you would never mention Ghislaine if you were involved in this, if you were there, you would never mention Ghislaine Maxwell again. You would try to stamp out every story with her name, but that's not true. The actual smartest way to do it is put that AI generated video of her on the street and let people go nuts with that.
It's a whole couple week cycle. It's exactly like Kelly Slater saying at the end, they can believe you or not, quote, end quote, when Sam
That's true.
McIntosh asks him, hey, how are people supposed to believe that you actually picked a Dan Man surfboard randomly and blindly? Kelly Slater, quote, they can believe you or not, end quote.
Good way to close it out.
Boom. Don't have time for Hero and Zero today. So sorry. We're going to have to save it for next week, but next week's show is going to be a banger. What to do in the airport when you're stranded for a long time.
So don't have time for that. Don't have time for what I watched this week either.
I got to get what you watched.
Okay. Did you watch Urchin yet?
Yes. On it right now.
Did you like it?
Yes. I got to rewatch it. It was, or finished it, not on it right now. I finished it and I'm going back for a second watching because it was very profound and I felt needed double my attention.
It is. And I also should have gave more of a caveat last week, which was it's not for everybody. Like it's a dark subject matter that is a little bit, hard to stomach, but phenomenal film. So
phenomenal. And made me, Harris Dickinson is like doubled. I mean, already was a fan, already appreciated him, doubled after watching something that he wrote and directed that was clearly an art piece.
Totally agree. Now I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the list of movies that I've watched this week because it is far ranging and I think you'd appreciate it. There's a new Paul McCartney documentary about his time after he left the Beatles. It's called Man on the Run.
Are you recommending?
It's good. It's very good. I watched The Revenant, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
Did that hold up to your original feelings? Did it upgrade or degrade?
It's as good as I remember. It's excellent. Um, Copland. Have you ever seen
Sylvester
Copland?
Stallone, of course I have.
Dude, it's excellent.
That Sly Stallone every once in a while, and of course, like everyone knew Rocky was a piece of art, right? That the written and directed and acted in and fought for, and wow, what a piece. And then he becomes kind of a buffoon. And then he does a Copland, right? Where you're like, I fully forgot that Sly Stallone is a hammer of an actor when he wants to be.
I honestly, so it was way better than I expected. I had low hopes for it, and it was like
Is Ray Liotta in there too? Who is it?
Ray Liotta,
Yeah.
Robert De Niro,
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel. It's this
It's a
incredible
phenomenal.
cast.
Yeah.
Even like all the way down the list, there's just more people show up that you're like, oh my God, I love that guy.
Yeah.
And this is an excellent thriller about corrupt cops in a town and one sheriff kind of going rogue against them. But it really is a Western. It's a Western set in modern time in a modern city, but it is all the structure of a Western. So if that appeals to you at all, nobody's ever heard of it except you. And I thought it was spectacular.
I think I saw Copland in the theater for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good for you. You're early to it.
Yeah.
I watched W. Per your recommendation.
What did you think?
Didn't love it as much as you.
How good is Brolin as G-Dub?
I thought Brolin was too handsome. Like he did a very good job acting. Like he had mannerisms and all that.
Drunky?
But his strong jawline, like there's a dopiness to George W. Bush that Brolin just cannot embody.
Did it make you appreciate G-Dub as a president more? Did you think, yeah, that's kind of my guy, drunk, a little dumb?
No. Well, it made me like him as a human being more, you know, for those reasons, like frat boy with total delusions of grandeur that somehow gets it done through a lot of support of the people around him. But I think the film was really, really well made. Oliver Stone deserves credit for this one. And I think Brolin also does deserve credit as the actor. But what else is kind of interesting watching it now, looking back on it, is what looked like really, really wild actions within the presidency looks Pollyanna compared to today's political climate. So I mean, what were the sensational moments? The tamest of the tame. So things that were sensational in the film of like, how are they going to navigate this crazy PR scandal? It's like, are you guys kidding me? Like, that's a random Tuesday morning in the current administration.
It's even crazy to look back at the invasion of Iraq on total false pretenses, but the amount of trying to convince everyone and or really believing your own lies, believing the lie that there really was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and we had to go get them, right? Like that whole conceit, it was sold again and again and again and again to not only the US population, but to the world population, right? That this is the case for war laid out carefully. Turns out, totally not true, blah, blah, blah. This administration, Trump administration, they didn't even pretend to begin to try to make any case for going to war. There's no, it's just, we think, it doesn't matter. They've been yelling death to America for 37 years. Good enough for me.
Well, and didn't get congressional approval either.
I mean,
and then argue that it's not a war after the fact. So, yes, yeah. So yes to your point times 1,000, basically.
Yeah, funny.
So I'm glad I watched the film, and it is actually kind of interesting to watch under today with what's going on currently and look back on it because it is a blueprint. I watched Boondock Saints for the first time in 20 years.
Good movie.
Also very good. I watched A Ghost Story, the Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara film.
Whoa, is that where they met?
I don't know.
Aren't they married?
No,
they're not.
She's married to Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, she sure is. Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. So for anybody who hasn't seen A Ghost Story, I've watched this film probably 3 or 4 times now. Each time I do, I'm amazed at how good it is and how I forgot how good it was. It is spectacularly good. So this was almost my thing that I'm watching this week that I'm going to recommend to you. But there's one other movie that I watched that's going to
real quick before we move on to what to watch this week. How much better is Casey Affleck than Ben?
5 times better. 10 times better.
I'm gonna go 10 times. Yep.
10 times better for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And go down the list of films like Manchester by the Sea,
Yep.
our favorite, which we've talked about before, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Phenomenal film.
Casey Affleck, one of my favorite roles of Casey Affleck is him uh playing alongside what's his dude? Oh, I can't remember his name. He's my buddy, even Scott Conn, as the Mormon twins in Ocean's
Oh
11.
yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Kind of stole the show to a certain degree. That duo.
Him and Khan literally stole the show, I thought, as the Mormon twins amongst an all-star cast. Those are
Yeah,
every time they were on screen, I was like, this is good stuff here.
that is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, final recommendation, the one that I think stands out as the best film I watched this week is Mo Better Blues by
Ooh, what
Spike Lee.
is this Spike's newest?
This is old. This is
Oh,
early Denzel and Wesley Snipes.
okay. Wow, this is a deep cut right here.
It is a deep cut, and I was on a flight, and I was like, I talked last week about flights,
The best.
movie options on flights are phenomenal now. I was scrolling through, and I'm like, Mo Better Blues. I never saw that, but I do like early Spike Lee. Like I
Yeah.
like Do the Right Thing
Do
is
the
the
Right
best,
Thing.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'll watch this. The name is so stupid, so I think I never watched it because of the name. But I was like, it is fantastic. Like really from a filmmaking standpoint, really, really good. But then also like this deep look into a subculture that I don't have exposure to, which is like, Brooklyn, New York in a certain time era. I want to say it was like the fifth. Well, there was actually going back and forth in time, but Brooklyn, New York in a certain neighborhood, super into jazz music. That's the premise of the film is Denzel's a trumpet player. And it's like, that's fascinating to me. Jazz music, like trumpet playing, like all that whole subculture, I want to peek inside. And it was spectacular.
It's funny, I haven't seen Spike's latest offering, and so I don't mean to speak ill ignorantly, but I do all the time anyway. It feels like when he got rich and famous and notable, what made him so good was that look into those subcultures, and then he lost an angle into those subcultures, where if he would have focused maybe on the subcultures that he was part of at that point, like rich, famous, the glitterati, literati filmmaker world. Because his eye is really good. It's just he kept making movies, I felt, look that were nostalgic about what he used to know, where he didn't have the same, access to it.
Yeah. I agree. And there was also more art in the films back then. I've watched some of the new stuff and it just looks too polished. It looks like anybody could have made it.
Yeah.
Other than kind of the ideology that it's spouting, which I think is his thumbprint, but they look like anybody else could have directed the film. Whereas back then it was completely different than anything. I mean, you watch Do the Right Thing, nothing existed like it at the time. And so, but I loved this so much that it made me want to do a deep dive. So I've got Jungle Fever queued up next.
Mm-hmm. Jungle Fever. Wow. Well, great. I watched Utopia this week. Have you seen? It's a new show. Can't remember where it's on. It's weird. It's British. Like it's one of those ones that catches you. Like, and then those shows that it's a series. I think it's Utopia. That catches you and then throws something so unexpected at you that it like crazy jarring, but almost refreshing to be so jarred.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I won't even spoil it in case you watch it. I won't spoil what happened, but
I'll look it up.
A moment that's just like, and I'm just like watching, I'm like, what? I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this, but also, yeah, intriguing.
Okay. I'll look it up. All right. So no Hero and Zero. Do you want to do Extra Fine Grit tomorrow or another day?
We can extra fine today if we cut out Hero and Zero.
Okay. I'll let you close this out then.
Sorry about it. Heroes and Zeros, you'll get either praised or lambasted next week. And until then,